One of our next guests says the sector winners under Harris will be the opposite under Trump. Joining us is Isaac Boltansky, Director of Policy Research at BTIG, and Tobin Marcus, Head of U.S. Policy and Politics at Wolfe. You both can convince us and viewers, Isaac, that it actually matters or works to try to bet on the sectors you think will do well under presidents when often the results are quite contrary.
Oh, I don't want to have to defend that, Kelly. I don't think that that's something that even Tobin would want to defend. I think that instead, all that we can try to do is provide a little bit of clarity regarding process. And look, it's an uncomfortable fact, but no one knows who's going to show up to vote, and no one knows what someone is going to choose to do with their ballot once they pull the curtain behind them. Instead, I think what we can try to do is talk through that separation of rhetoric and reality, right? And a lot of the things that we've seen from the campaign trail from both candidates are simply highly unlikely if they win the White House because of the composition of Congress and because of competing priorities.
So it's gridlock then. I mean, this goes back to David Tepper's appearance on this network a month or two ago when he said he wasn't paying too much attention to the election because some version of gridlock looked like the most likely answer, and then you can kind of ignore it.
You know, look, for my side, I've made this point time and time again with clients. In 9 out of the past 10 presidential elections, if you look a year later, the stock market is up for an average gain of almost 20%. And I think that's because the American economy can continue to grow and businesses can continue to grow and expand. And within that, there are going to be acute winners and losers. And we can dig into that because there are certain areas that are going to be better positioned for under a Trump presidency than a Harris presidency. But by and large, the American economy continues to grow and move forward.
We'll come back to your thoughts on which sectors might be favored under each scenario. But first, let's turn to that with Tobin Marcus. Tobin, what do you say here? You lean slightly toward a Trump victory here. And so what sectors would do best under Trump and which under Harris?
So sure. I mean, first, I'll just to follow in on the question about gridlock. I don't think it's necessarily the case that we're going to have gridlock in Congress. I think there's been a lot of assumptions that even if Trump wins, he'll be facing a Democratic House. I don't think that's right. If Trump wins, my guess would be that he'll have a red sweep with the House going the same way as the White House. So I do think that there's a big bifurcation of outcomes between a very status quo oriented set of outcomes under Harris with a Republican Senate, or a lot more room for policy movement under Trump with a Republican trifecta. But I certainly agree with Isaac's point that both of those two outcomes are broadly tolerable. I don't think that markets are going to have some huge, sort of market-wide sell-off if either Trump or Harris wins. But I do think that the sectoral implications are very, very different. If Trump wins, I think financials look like the clearest beneficiary. Parts of managed care, we think, do well in that scenario. Traditional energy, probably a short-term winner. I think that's more of a sentiment story than something with real fundamental economics behind it. And then risks, I think, for clean energy and tariffs, or for clean energy and tariff-exposed industrial and consumer names. And if Harris wins, very much the opposite. Those clean energy risks come off, those tariff risks come off, and you don't see necessarily the same benefits in terms of antitrust and deregulation for the financial sector.
Isaac, your thoughts?
Look, I agree with all of those points. I'd add a little bit more on the financial side. I think if Trump wins, we're going to be talking very seriously about getting Fannie and Freddie out of conservatorship after 16 years. I think that's a big theme that our folks are continuing to focus on. On the Harris victory side, I think of course we can make the argument that green energy is going to be a beneficiary. But I would also say that there are areas where I think you're going to see positive movement no matter who wins. And for example, there I've been focused on things like manufactured housing. We have a housing supply crisis in this country. And I think no matter who wins, we're going to have a focus on housing. That focus is going to lead to more support for areas like manufactured housing. So there are even areas that I think are winners under any scenario.
Isaac, it always feels like Election Day is the only day I hear about private prisons in any 4-year period. Do tell, what has the performance of private prisons actually been like over the past 4 and 8 years?
Sure. So private prisons, CXW and GEO, we don't cover either one of those, but those are companies that we follow from the policy side. And they're volatile names, in part because they don't have as much of a wide ownership base, given some of the ESG concerns. But that's one that we've focused on with our clients in part because if Trump does win, I think that we're going to have enhanced border security, both at the border and internally on the immigration side. And CXW and Geo are two companies that contract with with ICE, and I think would be beneficiaries from that side. So that's why we've mentioned those in our Trump basket.